Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innova's webinar for Q2 Product Innovation Update. Just to let you all know that we are recording this webinar so that we can actually put it on our website tomorrow. Right, who's on the call today? So I'm Phil Dunn, I'm the Engineering Manager at Innova, and we're joined also by Bruce Ripley, the COO, and Jen Gillen, the Sales and Marketing Manager. Right, we're going to make ourselves scarce now so you can actually see the slides that you want to see. I'll move on. So where have we been for the last quarter? Effectively, we've been busy. We've got 23 feature updates that we've added into Innova Vantage. And we've also got 15 feature updates that we've added into WellSeeker. Okay, none of these are small things. Loads and loads of activity in terms of development from January to April 2026. Okay, I'm going to take you through today a cherry-picked few of these additions to Innova Vantage. Okay, so first of all, we're going to touch upon the 3D anti-collision view, updates the operation dashboard, and then we're going to go have a look at the new and improved and as yet unreleased engineering dashboard that we're going to get out to you guys next week. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up Innova Vantage. Scroll over there. And we're first of all going to take a look at our new and improved 3D view. So we are all familiar with the ops dashboard and how to get quickly to our surveys for each well. And we're probably all very familiar with the old surveys view that was in Vantage for a long time. It was not dissimilar to like a split horizontal layout here. We had grid taking up the bottom half, the 3D plot on the top half. There was a hidden button to try and find the section and plan view plots to the side, and the real-time anti-collision and bit projection windows to the side. So you can still recreate a view similar to that now, if that's what you're used to and you like. However, we've now basically made this visual much easier to find the things you're after, much quicker, and generally made things a lot prettier. Okay, so one of the big differences here is a lot of our options that were hidden in a pencil icon in the bottom right here have now been put into a ribbon. You can also very quickly and easily toggle into just grid modes or just chart modes, depending on what you're actually looking at the time. Because of this ribbon here as well, if you are in just chart mode, you can access individual tools much easier than you could before. Okay, so the things that are the same, we've still got our survey listing, we've still got charts, okay, we've still got the plan view, the section view, and the 3D view charts. We've still got the ability to select offsets, a real-time anti-collision dialog, and projection access, as well as our interpolation tools. Okay, we've still got access to our geosteering zones and our star steer integration logging credentials. We can still export survey reports, aerolipse reports, and ICWSA diagnostics file, as well as setting the worksite radius. And the worksite, I mean this target-shaped symbol here. Okay, a lot of the other things we've added are brand new, and I'm going to show you them just now. So we've already looked at split horizontal and vertical mode. Something we've added to the grid, and then I'll hide this because we won't need it for a while, is if you right click, we've now added a go to depth option. So for example, if you're wanting to go in your chart to a specific depth, you can right click, go to depth, and it's going to take you to that depth really quickly. So it makes navigating your well very quick and simple. I'm just going to hide this grid now. So something else that you'll just see now that the chart's maximized is that we've done a lot of updating to the graphics themselves. So the well bores are they're just a bit prettier and sleeker. We've added in a BHA model as well, so you can turn that on and off by the button down here. You can select which BHA model is showing in there based upon your BHA options that you've got stored here. So I'll do a physical representation of them. Okay. In the top right here, we've now got some indication of the controls for brand new users who aren't familiar with it. We've still got the up-down buttons. Will move you up and down the wellbore. Okay. But again, that could be quite slow if you want to get to a very far away place. You can go to the grid and use the go-to depth, or we've now got a slider as well that can take you up to various different depths really quickly. So another ease of use, finding the place that you want to get to tool. Another function that we've added in here that's very useful, we've also added in WellSeeker X, is the filter by center to center distance filter. Okay, so what this does is it effectively hides any of the offset wells that are out with this distance. This also applies to your real-time anti-collision grid. So if you've got you're looking only at a specific distance window, that will apply to this grid too. Okay. In terms of like new features, we've got a wellbore radius. Okay, so by default, this is set at 5 foot. This is what I tend to leave it at. But if you are looking at really tight tolerances in terms of distances to plan, etc., you can actually make this smaller, thinner, thicker, depending on what you want, and everything else scales according to that. I'll just leave that at 5. Something else we've added the ability for is coloring the wellbores. Okay, so we can now turn this on to dogleg severity, and we now have a legend which gives you color indication to value. So green being 2s and below, and we can see up in the curve sections up here, we've got some 10 plus dogleg severities, both on our well and some of the offset wells. So just visualization of dogleg severity. We've also got the slide rotate intervals. Okay, green being rotate, red being slide. ROP, so you can really quickly see comparative like sections of well bores that are faster and slower to drill. And the last one is well type. So we've actually, in the actual wellbore properties, added a new option called well type. And this is for putting things like production or abandoned well designations. And based upon that, you will actually have the wells, in fact, there's one up here, that are colored differently because of that designation. So this one's a well type shut-in. Whilst I'm hovering over this, this is also a new feature. We've got tooltips as an option. So you hover over any object in the 3D plot, and if it's rendered, then it will give you a tooltip as to what it is. So it tells you which well this is, what survey point that is, the well type. If we go over to this lease line, it tells you it's lease line 1. This is particularly useful when you're in a pad that's full of lease lines, loads of offset wells, multiple plans all over the place. It's just quick and simple to hover over and see what you're looking at. We've also implemented a measurement tool in the 3D plot. So you can take a physical point and just drag to another location, and it will show you the distance to that object. Okay, simple as. The measurement tool itself actually measures from the outside of the object that it's touching. Okay, so the 3D rendered object. So in order to make this as accurate as possible, you can decrease your wellbore radius. That will make things tighter, and then you can use the measurement tool for a more refined measurement there. Okay. Another tool that we've got added quite recently actually was the back to plan tool. So what this does is it takes your last survey depth and you point to another point on a plan or an offset well, and it's going to do an optimum align curve logic to get you to that point on inclination and on the same azimuth as that particular object. Once you've run that projection, you can add it to your projections grid. And now you've got something that you can move along and run your real-time anti-collision analysis against. Okay, so really quick, useful one-click back to plan projections are a nice addition there. In terms of new options, we've already discussed the BHA toggle. We can turn the well bore on and off as well if you want to not visualize the actual layering of that. We call this feature the 3D anti-collision view. So I guess I'll show you our ellipsoids. So traditionally, you're probably used to seeing these as 2D disks, and we actually render them in the 3D plot as the full three-dimensional ellipsoid. And we can also turn on the cone option as well to get the full cone back from surface. Okay, so you have a proper three-dimensional view of anti-collision there. Something else we added for an operator was a request for depleted zones visualization. And so in the actual wellbore properties, there is a depleted zone section that you can fill in both WellSeeker X and in Vantage. This allows you to input like an up, down, left, right type system for zone depletion around the wellbore. And you can actually see here between offsets, any overlapping depleted zones will be highlighted in red. And as well as the visualization, we've got a depleted zone intersections report and a shape file that can be exported from here based upon that. Okay, we've also got some prettier visualizations, much like we've added the BHA. You can visualize your casing. We can turn on like satellite view for Google Maps underneath, so you can see, you know, where you are represented on Google Maps as well. So plenty of nice improvements for the 3D visualizations. And it makes it a really useful tool that works effectively offline from everything else. You're going to be getting your real-time survey updates here, but your projections that you're able to do and the real-time anti-collision analysis doesn't interfere with anything that's actually going on at the rig. This doesn't save over the top. So every user using this projection set basically is doing that independently of anyone else. So very useful tool set available in the Vantage surveys page. Right, the next one we were going to look at is the operations dashboard and the new features that we've added there. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and we introduced this at the last quarter webinar, and since then we had a lot of feedback as to things that people would like added. So in terms of the extra things that we've added here, we've changed a little bit in the anti-collision view. We've added tooltips to the trend line analysis. We've tidied up some of the column information. We've added a landing tool for any wells that are in the curve section. We've also added the ability to put in a summary for the closest center-to-center distance values data instead of all. Okay, so you can toggle between everything or just the important closest intervals. In terms of the latest surveys, we also added a directional scorecard informatic section down here. So effectively, we can look and do the comparisons between planned dogleg severity and actual dogleg severity very easily. You've got a good indication of the planned tortuosity versus what you actually managed to achieve throughout the well as you're drilling it. Okay, we've also got the last 10 surveys, which I think we updated from 5 previously. We've added the ability to visualize your well from the dashboard as well. So we've got our surveys charts. Okay, we've got the 3D view, we've got the section view, and we've got the plan view. Okay, these can be either changed at the card level, or you can change them across the board at the top level. Okay, you may notice here that we're seeing the lease lines, the plan, and the actual wellbore. We don't actually have any of the offsets on here, and that's just due to the huge caching capacity for users with a large number of rig count. So it's basically an optimization thing to stop this taking ages to load. But the information that you need is all there. Okay, we've got an incidents card. So if there are any incidents that have been logged in the run data, these will appear and be able to drill into some of the additional comments related to that incident. Okay, we've added the ability in the EDR view to view in real time. You can now move between different subsections of that well and the mini map in there. And then when you're ready, you can also auto scroll back to receive real-time updates on that section. We've added an MWD page. Okay, so this covers basic tool information, the magnetics data, battery data, offsets, any MWD setup information, the magnetic spacing, and probe configuration data where applicable. We have added an engineering tab. So if you have any existing cases, is what we refer to an engineering simulation as. So if you have any engineering cases in existence, these are what's going to be displayed for that particular job. Okay. In the scenario where you don't have a case that someone's manually created and is managing, we will also try to automate a case. So you can actually check on this data. This one is an actual case that's been managed. Go down to another well. And for example, this one here is an auto-generated case. And so if there isn't the necessary information to run a full simulation, we effectively fill in the blanks for you and as an estimate based upon hole size, etc. Okay, so in this one, the fluids information was missing, surface pressure loss, the wellbore geometry wasn't there, some of the IDs of the components, and the drill pipe and weights weren't filled in. So we've had an estimate at what to fill in and run the simulation anyway. So this gives you some engineering data, and that goes for, and when I speak engineering data, we've got pump pressure, okay, with real-time WITS and EDR overlay. We've got our surgeon swab simulations, our driller's hook loads, again with real-time overlay, and driller's torque simulations. We've got a personnel tab. Okay, I'll just change this for all the users. Okay, personnel tab. This feeds off the daily reports of who's on site in terms of the day, night, DD, and MWD, as well as the coordinator information from the job data level. The contact details will come from your personnel details table that you manage at server database level. We've also got an inventory view. Okay, so this is expanded somewhat since previously, but again, just a nice quick visual, you know what's on site. And finally, we've got a notes page. So again, any comments that from the last daily report, any comments about this rig moving from job to job can be input here and visualized in Vantage. So those are the basic updates. Obviously, the existing functionality is still there. Those are enhancements we made shortly after release based upon customer feedback. Right, the last thing I want to cover today is our new engineering dashboard. So this hasn't been released yet. We're currently in the dev environment, but we've made quite a lot of changes. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the engineering dashboard, it used to be one row along the top here with different tabs for each calculation type input. And what we've done is we've tried to bring all of those inputs into one view. So we've got the inputs view, the results view. And at the top level, we've got our case details, our calculation settings, and for each individual sub calculation type, any relevant inputs go in here. Okay, what we can do if we're trying to run a particular type of calculation is we can select the calc type of either none, or in this scenario, I would say torque and drag. And what it does is it highlights the critical to fill in cells in green. Okay, so you know those are vital things to be filled in to run that type of calculation. Once you've input all of your data, okay, we'll just run through a few added things that we've done in this input section. So as always, you can create, import, copy, original cases. We now have the ability to select whether we use just surveys, just a plan, or a composite listing to simulate our trajectory in the engineering case. So previously, we would, behind the scenes, use the surveys and then the plan after the survey depth if the plan was greater. That would now be called composite, but you also have the option to use just surveys or just the plan. The BHA, we've still got the ability to copy and import those from anywhere else in your server database. We've also made an overhaul of the modal for editing BHAs. So we now have a schematic for the BHA that goes along with it. We've got very similar component properties to how we had before, or you can also open up a properties dialog here. Okay, so multiple different ways of handling that data. We've still got access to the component catalog and inventory. You can split these vertically or horizontally depending on your preference. Okay, still they have drag and drop to pull them in as required. Okay, so that's the drill string. The whole section, or the well schematic as we had it before, again, we've got the option to copy these from previous schematics. We've got the layout diagram in here, which we didn't have previously, but other than that, very similar functionality. Okay, we've discussed the tabs for the different calculation types, and now let's go on to the results. So you can have a conjoined inputs and results layout if you desire it, or you can turn off your inputs. Along the top here, we've got the ability to switch from various different chart types: hydraulics, torque and drag, surge and swab, well control, and BHA analysis. You can do this manually by selecting, a specific chart, or you can mouse scroll wheel through them to get to other charts of that subtype. Or alternatively, we have a dashboard option. So charts are for single charts. Dashboard, you can change the layout to get a combination of different card layouts, and we edit that in the card selection section here. So currently I've got 7 cards selected, but you can go ahead and edit these, change these as you require. You can also save these as a template as well. So once you've got a card layout that you like, you can save them or import other layouts from elsewhere. So you don't have to manually create this every single time. It's very quick and easy to move back and forth. But this allows you to view things from multiple different calculation types. We've got pump pressure here with our 3D BHA analysis stress model there, our drillers' torques, our drillers' hook loads. So it's quite a useful overview there. We've still got the ability to print our reports from here, and we have a new hydraulics diagnostic output as well that you can input. Preferences wise, we've got the ability to turn on data grids, labels, casings, shade buckling, and the legend. And we've got, I'll just turn back onto a single chart for this just now. Okay, we've also added the ability to input slide sheet or EDR data, or both. Okay, and we've got the option of whether they display as point data or they display as line data. Okay, so it then becomes much easier to discern between the two. We've also got a depth limit that we can set on here so that this EDR data only applies or is visualized over a certain depth range. And we also have the ability to, if you've got very noisy data, you can make that only display at certain depth intervals. So if you've maybe got a data point every foot or two, this then becomes very blocky and noisy. You can reduce that to only show 1 point every 50 foot, every 100 foot, etc. So those are some new features that we've added for the charts themselves. Right, I'm going to stop sharing that particular grid there, and we're going to go back to my slide deck. Okay, so we're now onto the Q&A section for the last 5 minutes here. I'm going to move over to that section in Teams and see if there's any questions available for us. And if there's no questions in the Q&A section, so archived my posts. Jen, can you see any posts in the Q&A? Do we have any available? Do I have to press a button to refresh them?
No, we've not had any questions so far. So if anyone wants to ask anything about what they saw,
okay.
Pop it in.
So yeah, please go to the Q&A tab. If you've got any questions, please type it in and we'll be happy to answer them. While we're waiting for any questions to come in, this video is obviously on loop. Again, it's what we looked at the beginning. You can see all the different features that we've added over the last 3 months. I'll just pause it there so you can actually read it without it just skimming past. But effectively, for Well Seeker X, we've added the bit projections, multi-nudge projection, just for an MD and CASI. That was mainly so that users could do a survey input type projection, which was like very much the methodology that people have been using for years and years. So we just added it into our projection section. We've also added block weight per rig selection. So what that means is that when you designate a rig to a particular job, that pulls in automatically to your rig state settings. So it already takes that block weight into account when you're looking at hook load threshold, for example. We've added in the charts, the center chart filter, like I showed you in Vantage 3D plot. We've also added that into the plots in Well Seeker X.
Couple of questions in there, Phil, now for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. They've just refreshed. I'll put that back on loop. Okay. So Alex has asked, when will the new design of engineering dashboard be released? So we are hoping to get that out to you guys next week. So we're not just going to drop that in your lap and say, here you go. We'll have some documentation, how-to guides, etc. released before we make it go live. But we're hoping next week that will be released. Thank you for the question. Dusty Moyer. Okay, so good question. Do you have any lease line intersection or projections in Vantage? Currently, no, but that will absolutely be something that we can look at. So what Dusty's talking about in Well Seeker X, we've got functionality where we can turn on lease line intersections and effectively just give you labels at the depths of any point that your plan or your actual wellbore have intersected a lease line. We currently don't have that functionality in Vantage, but I'm going to write that down as a suggestion. Speaking of suggestions, the last slide that we're going to look at shortly will give you a QR code to go to our suggestions page. And that is effectively for things just like that, Dusty. Our management and development team constantly look at that, and basically suggestions from you guys get implemented if we think they're a good idea. So please put that, I'm going to write that down, but could you also go ahead, Dusty, and put that in our suggestions page on the website, please. Right. Let's move on. Yep, so this recording for this webinar is going to be available from tomorrow. As I just mentioned, you can use this QR code or follow the link to our feedback page on our website. When it comes out, we can register for the next quarterly webinar so you don't miss out on the latest updates. And if you aren't already, please follow us on LinkedIn. It's good for our marketing lot. So thank you very much for your time and paying attention, and thank you for your questions at the end there, guys. Much appreciated. Right, we'll catch you on the next quarter.